Ready to go.
Ready? Hare Krishna, my dear devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Today we're hearing from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 14. And it says, Namam karmani limpanti, name karma phale spriha. Itimam yo vijananti, karma vir na sabadyate. And the translation is, there is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me, of course, is Krishna, also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And Prabhupada writes, as there are constitutional laws in the material world stating that the king can do no wrong, or that the king is not subject to the state laws. Similarly, the Lord, although He is the creator of this material world, is not affected by the activities of the material world. He creates and remains aloof from the creation. Whereas the living entities are entangled in the fruitive results of material activities because of their propensity for lording it over material resources. The proprietor of an establishment is not responsible for the right and wrong activities of the workers, but the workers are themselves responsible. The living entities are engaged in their respective activities of sense gratification. And these activities are not ordained by the Lord. For advancement of sense gratification, the living entities are engaged in the work of this world, and they aspire to heavenly happiness after death. The Lord, being full Himself, has no attraction for so-called heavenly happiness. The heavenly demigods are only His engaged servants. The proprietor never desires the low-grade happiness, such as the workers may desire. He is aloof from the material actions and reactions. For example, the rains are not responsible for different types of vegetation that appear on the earth. Although without such rains, there is no possibility of vegetative growth. Vedic Smriti confirms this fact as follows. Nimita matram eva so srijyanam sarga karmani pradana karani bhuta yato vai srijate saktaya. In the material creations, the Lord is only the supreme cause. The Lord is the only supreme cause. The immediate cause is material nature, by which the cosmic manifestation is made visible. The created beings are of many varieties, such as the demigods, human beings, and lower animals, and all of them are subject to the reactions of their past good or bad activities. The Lord only gives them the proper facilities for such activities and the regulations of the modes of nature, but He is never responsible for their past and present activities. In the Vedanta Sutra 2.1.34, it is confirmed Bison ya nen green yene, the green yene, nair green ye, na sapek savat. The Lord is never partial to any living entity. The living entity is responsible for his own acts. The Lord only gives him facilities through the agency of material nature, the external energy. Anyone who is fully conversant with all the intricacies of the law of karma or fruit of activities does not become affected by the results of his activities. In other words, the person who understands this transcendental nature of the Lord is an experienced man in Krishna consciousness, and thus he is never subjected to the laws of karma. One who does not know the transcendental nature of the Lord and who thinks that the activities of the Lord are aimed at fruit of results, as are the activities of the ordinary living entities, certainly becomes entangled himself in fruitive reactions. But one who knows the supreme truth is a liberated soul fixed, but one who knows the supreme truth is a liberated soul fixed in Krishna consciousness. Okay, so anybody who wants to have a successful life must have knowledge. And how do you get knowledge? You associate with people who have real knowledge. And who are those people? They are bona fide devotees who have heard from other bona fide devotees the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. And they simply repeat it for the benefit of whoever has the interest to understand transcendental knowledge. Unfortunately, not everybody's interested in transcendental knowledge. Rather, they would like to go to different places where they can hear about how to make money. Yeah, how to become a millionaire in 3 months. So they'll pay hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars to learn the tricks of the trade. But the devotees are not interested in making a lot of money. What they're interested in is finding out what is the real purpose of life and how to attain that purpose. So what is the real purpose of life? Real purpose of life, if you have a human body, is to become free from the cycle of birth and death. How do you get free from the cycle of birth and death? Well, the best way is by associating with genuine devotees who have knowledge of the Shastras and who can teach you how to engage in devotional service. So, in the verse today, which is chapter 4, verse number 14, there's a very interesting verse. Well, the verse is interesting, but there's another verse in the purport which says, Nimitta macham eva so, srijyanam sarga karma, pradana karani bhuta, yato vai srijya shaktaya. In the material creations, the Lord is only the supreme cause. The immediate cause is material nature, by which the cosmic manifestation is made visible. The created beings are of many varieties, such as the demigods, human beings, of lower animals, and all of them are subject to the reactions of their past good or bad activities. The Lord only gives them the proper facilities for such activities, and the regulations of the modes of nature. But he, Krishna, is never responsible for their past and present activities. Okay, 12, and then it says in the Vedanta Sutra 2.1.34, it is confirmed by Samya Nirgin Ye Na Sapik Savat. The Lord is never partial to any living entity. The living entity is responsible for his own acts. The Lord only gives him facilities through the agency of material nature, the external energy. Anyone who is fully conversant with all the intricacies of this law of karma or fruitive activities does not become affected by the results of his activities. In other words, the person who understands the transcendental nature of the Lord is an experienced man in Krishna consciousness, and thus he is never subjected to the laws of karma. One who does not know the transcendental nature of the Lord and who thinks that the activities of the Lord are aimed at fruitive results, as are the activities of the ordinary living entities, certainly becomes entangled himself in fruitive reactions. But one who knows the supreme truth is a liberated soul fixed in Krishna consciousness. Okay, so there are what's called constitutional laws in the material world, stating that the king can do no wrong, or that the king is not subject to the state laws. Similarly, the Lord, although he is the creator of this material world, is not affected by the activities of the material world. He creates and remains aloof from the creation, whereas the living entities are entangled in the fruitive results of material activities because of their propensity for lording it over material resources. Okay, let's stop right there. This desire to lord over material resources, and for what reason? For sense gratification. So one may work very hard to have nice cars, nice house, nice vacations, nice second house, sometimes third house, sometimes fourth house, sometimes fifth house. Yeah, they like to pile up the houses and cars, vacations, and so forth. But that's not really what the purpose of life is. Krishna is not inspired by somebody having many houses or many cars or a lot of money in the bank. Krishna is only interested in seeing if someone has love and devotion for him. So that's why it says here, the living entities are engaged in their respective activities of sense gratification. And these activities are not ordained by the Lord. In other words, the Lord's not telling them, yeah, you should do this. You should engage in sense gratification. No. For advancement of sense gratification, the living entities are engaged in the work of this world, and they aspire to heavenly happiness after death. Well, yeah, if they do good karma, they're not going to go back to Godhead, but they might be promoted to higher planets where there is better sense gratification. However, all of that is temporary. So it's really not desirable. Then what is desirable? Well, it's desirable to perform tapasya in order to make bona fide spiritual advancement. Now, tapasya, meaning sacrificing, It's not something in Krishna consciousness like what the Mayavadis do. Mayavadis also engage in tapasya, but they will be in some cave or they'll be in some closet or something meditating by themselves. They avoid large crowds of people, and they're interested primarily in their own salvation. They're not interested in helping others. So they are more or less selfish. Whereas the devotee is not concerned about elevation to the heavenly planets. The devotee is not interested in sense gratification, although he has senses, but he only uses his senses in the service of Krishna. He doesn't use them for selfish self-indulgence. Okay, so this engagement in sense gratification is everywhere. And it's glorified in movies, in books, and schools. Everywhere it's glorified. The more sense gratification you have, the more you're considered successful. But actually, it's the opposite. The more so-called sense gratification you have, the more you become a victim of Maya. And while you're being victimized by Maya, you don't even realize it. You think you're making progress in accumulating more and more material things, properties, cars, vacations, all those things. Okay, so what should be a real concern in life? Well, a real concern in life should be how to become free from the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. When we say a cycle, it means that it's like a merry-go-round. You're starting at one point and you end up at that same point. But you go in a round way, but you keep coming back to that same point, you know. So that is a cycle that is like a prison. It is not liberation. What we want to do is not keep going around in cycles, but we want to go back to Godhead, where there are no more cycles. However, most people don't understand these things. So here, some people will blame their, let's say, entrapment in material nature to Krishna. There was this one fellow, we were very good friends, and he always says, it's Krishna's fault. I said, what do you mean it's Krishna? Well, he made women nice and beautiful. So I said, what does that have to do? He said, no. He made women beautiful, and then it's his fault if I'm attracted to them. So, you know, I mean, he's an adult, right? He's very educated. He was rather, wealthy and everything. And he's always blaming it on Krishna. Yeah, it's very sad, very, very sad. No, anyway, look, beauty is only skin deep. So it's not real beauty. And it's not the fault of women, and it's not the fault of Krishna. It's the fault of the person who doesn't understand that all women are the servants of Krishna, and all men are servants of Krishna also. So, if the women are engaging in devotional service and the men are engaging in devotional service, now there's no problem of men and women getting along with each other because they both have the same goal, that is to please Krishna. It's if the man is after sense gratification and the woman wants to please Krishna, then there's going to be a problem, or vice versa. But if everybody's working, it's just like this. It's if you have a point, and around that point, you make a circle. And then you make a bigger circle around the same point. And then you make another bigger circle around the same point. Then there is no, let's say, problem, because you're not going into the circles. When I mean into circles, the circles are around the same point. They're for their concentric circles. They're not intersecting. So if we all have the same purpose of pleasing Krishna, well, someone can please Krishna in one way, and someone else can please Krishna even better in another way, and another person may please Krishna even more in a third way, but they're all like concentric circles around the same point, which is Krishna. So they're not intersecting with each other. So that is the real purpose of spiritual life, to have one goal, to please Krishna, with the help of a bona fide spiritual master or spiritual masters. And in that way, there's peace, there's friendship, there's love, all good things become possible when people have the same goal of pleasing Krishna. Now, people might have the same goal. Like, for example, you have people that go and try and make money on the stock market. So they're all in the stock market and they're all screaming, I'll buy this one, and another one says, well, I'll sell you this, and so they don't all have the same purpose, but the real purpose is having this one purpose, to please Krishna through devotional service and get the help of bona fide spiritual masters. Okay, so it says, in the material creations, the Lord is only the supreme cause. The immediate cause is material nature, by which the cosmic manifestation is made visible. Okay, so when it says that the Lord is the supreme cause, that means that we are all servants of the Lord. We don't want to be the cause. We want to be the servant of the Lord. When you're the cause, well, that means that you're making karma, and you're going to have to either enjoy the karma or suffer the karma. But the best way to do things is simply to engage in the service of the Lord and not try to be the ownership or proprietor. So this is hard to understand for most people. I mean, people are always concerned about proprietorship. They're always concerned about, their car, their house, their bank accounts, their business. However, it is possible to live in such a way where you understand all these things belong to God or Krishna, and that you are surrendered to the Lord. So by being surrendered to the Lord, you use your money, you use your intelligence, you use your energy, all in the service of the Lord. Now, you're still making money, you still might have a house and all these things, but everything is used in the service of the Lord. The car, the house, the money, and everything. That way, although you're working hard, although you are responsible for helping other people and so forth, but you're not entangled by the laws of material nature, of birth, death, old age, and disease. There's no more karma because you don't have any fruitive activities. That's why it says here, anyone who is fully conversant with all the intricacies of this law of karma or fruitive activities does not become affected by the results of his activities. In other words, the person who understands this transcendental nature of the Lord is an experienced man in Krishna consciousness, and thus he is never subject to the laws of karma. One who does not know the transcendental nature of the Lord and who thinks that the activities of the Lord are aimed at fruitive results, as are the activities of the ordinary living entities, certainly becomes entangled himself in fruitive reactions. But one who knows the supreme truth is a liberated soul fixed in Krishna consciousness. That's what we should aim for, to know the supreme truth. Then we become a liberated soul fixed in Krishna consciousness. What is the truth? Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and we are all subordinate to the Lord. We have come from the Lord, and our real destination is to go back to the Lord. And the way to do that is being engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. So everything is about the Lord. Okay, so any questions? So our takeaway today is anyone who is fully conversant with all the intricacies of this law of karma or fruitive activities does not become affected by the results of his activities. In other words, the person who understands the transcendental nature of the Lord is an experienced man in Krishna consciousness, and thus he is never subjected to the laws of karma.
So it's just the knowledge sufficient, Maharaj, in this case, or is one has to act in that knowledge? Like just
no, obviously you have to act in that knowledge. That's why it says here that anyone who is fully conversant with all the intricacies of this law of karma, fruitive activities, does not become affected by the results of his activities. So he's having activities, but he's not being trapped due to ignorance by the laws of material nature.
Because the Mayavadis kind of use the same argument to say, oh, just realizing that there is law of karma is sufficient, and then you do whatever you want to do. That's their argument. Because according to this statement, just knowing that there is laws of karma, then you are liberated. This is kind of very complicated logic, but that's what they use to say that, according to this verse, just knowing how the karma works is sufficient. Is that how do we counteract that?
No, it says here, in other words, the person who understands this transcendental nature of the Lord is an experienced man in Krishna consciousness, and thus he is never subjected to the laws of karma. It's not that if you understand all the intricacies of laws of karma, of fruit of activities, then you what you that's not enough. You have to understand. Besides that, the transcendental nature of the Lord, who is he is the one who controls the laws of karma, and he is not trying to keep you entrapped by fruit of activities. He's telling you that basically Krishna is saying, give them up. Give up all fruit of activities and just surrender to me and offer all your activities and services to me. Krishna is not saying, okay, stay always, under the laws of material nature or karma or fruit of activities. He's basically saying that if you understand the laws of karma, then you will not engage in mundane activities. However, one who does not know the transcendental nature of the Lord and who thinks that the activities of the Lord are aimed at fruitive results, as are the activities of the ordinary living entity, certainly becomes entangled himself in fruitive reactions. But one who knows the supreme truth is a liberated soul fixed in Krishna consciousness. There you go. Yeah, the laws of karma are very complicated. And they are mixed. Like there's some periods where, because of the laws of karma, you're having a good time. And at other times, because things are mixed, you're having a bad time. Yeah, because everybody is performing some good activities and other people are performing, and at the same time, the same person might be engaging in some sinful activities also. Like, for example, let's say you go to church and you pray to God. Dear Lord, please give us our daily bread. Then you go to the supermarket and buy some meat. And you cook it and you eat the meat. So you did one thing that is maybe considered good karma, and now you do something that is bad karma. Both ways, you're subject to the laws of karma. But if you never eat meat, gamble, and have illicit sex or intoxication, and always engage in Krishna consciousness, now there's no karma. So there's karma, vikarma, and akarma. So karma means acting according to the rules and regulations of spiritual life, but still having attachment to the result. And akarma and vikarma means engaged in sinful activities. And akarma means having no karma, because you're only engaged in the service of the Lord without any fruitive activities. So that's what we should aim for, having a karma-free life by always engaging in devotional service. But as soon as we engage in fruitive activities, we get trapped by the laws of karma. And then, what is the law of karma? The law of karma is, if you have sense gratification, it will always be followed by sense misery, or misery of the senses. It's the law. Now, some people say, oh, no, I don't believe that. But it's a fact. Where is that said in? I forget. I used to know where that was said. That if you engage in sense gratification, if you engage in sense gratification, it is always followed by miseries. See if we can find that. Sense gratification. 1 second. Let's see if we can find it. It's in Bhagavad Gita. These sense gratification. So sense gratification. Where is it? One second. Mm-hmm. Okay. It says, this is chapter 1, text 32 to 35. And it says, O Govinda, of what avail to us our kingdom, happiness, or even life itself, when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed on this battlefield? O Madhusudana, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, material uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before us, why should I wish to kill them, even though they might otherwise kill me? O maintainer of all living entities, I am not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the 3 worlds, let alone this earth. What pleasure will we derive from killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? Now, in purport, Arjuna has addressed Lord Krishna as Govinda, because Krishna is the object of all pleasures for cows and the senses. By using the significant word Govinda, Arjuna indicates that Krishna should understand what will satisfy Arjuna's senses. But Govinda is not meant for satisfying our senses. If we try to satisfy the senses of Govinda, however, then automatically our own senses are satisfied. Materially, everyone wants to satisfy his senses, and he wants God to be the order supplier for such satisfaction. The Lord will satisfy the senses of the living entities as much as they deserve. That means by what they deserve by their karma, but not to the extent that they may covet. What covet means what they desire. But when one takes the opposite way, namely, when one tries to satisfy the senses of Govinda without desiring to satisfy one's own senses, then, by the grace of Govinda, all desires of the living entity are satisfied. In other words, instead of wanting to satisfy our own senses, if we work to satisfy Krishna's senses, then all our desires will be satisfied. Of what? Of pleasing Krishna. Right? But if we work for our own senses, then we're subjected to the laws of material nature. So then it says, the Lord will satisfy the senses of living entities as much as they deserve. That means as much as their karma permits, right? But not to the extent that they may covet. In other words, not to the extent that they desire. But when one takes the opposite way, namely when one tries to satisfy the senses of Govinda without desiring to satisfy one's own senses, then, by the grace of Govinda, all desires of the living entity are satisfied. Wonderful statement. All desires, right? That means you can have infinite desires to please Krishna, and Krishna will help you. Arjuna's deep affection for community and family members is exhibited here partly due to his natural compassion for them. He is therefore not prepared to fight. Everyone wants to show his opulence to friends and relatives, but Arjuna fears that all his relatives and friends will be killed on the battlefield, and he will be unable to share his opulence after victory. This is a typical calculation of material life. The transcendental life, however, is different. Since a devotee wants to satisfy the desires of the Lord, he can, Lord willing, accept all kinds of opulence for the service of the Lord, and if the Lord is not willing, he should not accept a farthing. Farthing means a penny. Arjuna did not want to kill his relatives, and if they were any need to kill them, he desired that Krishna kill them personally. At this point, he did not know that Krishna had already killed them before their coming into the battlefield, and that he was only to become an instrument, that Arjuna was only to become an instrument for Krishna's plan. This fact is disclosed in following chapters. As a natural devotee of the Lord, Arjuna did not like to retaliate against his miscreant cousins and brothers, but it was the Lord's plan that they should all be killed. The devotee of the Lord does not retaliate against the wrongdoer. That's a big statement. But the Lord does not tolerate any mischief done to the devotee by the miscreants. The Lord can excuse a person on his own account, but he excuses no one who has done harm to his devotees. Therefore, the Lord was determined to kill the miscreants, although Arjuna wanted to excuse them. Got to be really careful here. So the Lord does not tolerate any mischief done to the devotees by the miscreants. The Lord can excuse a person on his own account, but he excuses no one who has done harm to his devotees. Therefore, the Lord was determined to kill the miscreants, although Arjuna wanted to excuse them. All right, so I mean, I've experienced this. I don't want to talk about it anymore. But if we um, take the opposite way, what does that mean? Namely, when one tries to satisfy the senses of Govinda without desiring to satisfy one's own senses, then by the grace of Govinda, all desires of the living entity are satisfied. That's a very, very big statement. If we learn that tonight, that's worth millions, billions, quadrillions. It's such an important thing to know. Let me read it again.
In which verse?
This is chapter 1, verse number 35. And it says, when one tries to satisfy the senses of Govinda without desiring to satisfy one's own senses, then by the grace of Govinda, all desires of the living entity are satisfied. Very important verse, a very important purport. This is the purport of chapter 1, verse 32 to 35. Chapter 1, verses 32 to 35. And it's near the beginning of the purport. So it says, Arjuna has addressed Lord Krishna as Govinda because Krishna is the object of all pleasures for cows and the senses. By using this significant word, Arjuna indicates that Krishna should understand what will satisfy Arjuna's senses. But Govinda is not meant for satisfying our senses. If we try to satisfy the senses of Govinda, however, then automatically our own senses are satisfied. Materially, everyone wants to satisfy his senses, and he wants God to be the order supplier for such satisfaction. The Lord will satisfy the senses of the living entities as much as they deserve, meaning according to their karma, right? But not to the extent that they may covet. It's limited. Let's put it like that. Covet means what they desire. But when one takes the opposite way, namely, when one tries to satisfy the senses of Govinda without desiring to satisfy one's own senses, then, by the grace of Govinda, all desires of the living entity are satisfied. And we should have a festival. This is really, a high level knowledge. So materially, everyone wants to satisfy his senses, and he wants God to be the order supplier for such satisfaction. The Lord will satisfy the senses of the living entities as much as they deserve it by their karma, but not to the extent that they may desire or covet. But when one takes the opposite way, namely when one tries to satisfy the senses of Govinda without desiring to satisfy one's own senses, then by the grace of Govinda, all desires of the living entity are satisfied, because the living entity only has desires to satisfy Govinda. Then all his desires will be satisfied. Okay, any questions? This is really important information. All right, I think our time is up. So if there are no questions, then
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
yes, Prabhu.
Maharaj, just now in this verse, we learned like satisfying the senses of God itself automatically takes care of satisfying the senses of the devotee.
Yes.
So, in this, how we understand God, what exactly He wanted to sense?
He wanted what? He wants what?
He wanted to sense, like satisfying the God senses. So, what God wanted to see, what God wanted to hear. So, those are the ones, right, Maharaj? So, how exactly we understand as a uh, we know like what exactly God wanted. So, how do we know? Like just following the Guru steps. That's how we understand that is what the God wanted.
Well, it's by hearing Bhagavad Gita spoken by genuine devotees, and especially by listening to the verses and the purports. Then you understand what God wants. And God, or Krishna, he wants his devotee to be engaged in devotional service and offer everything to him with love and devotion, and not be selfish and not work for one's own sense gratification, but rather, instead of trying to please one's sense gratification, one should try and please the senses of Krishna. Therefore, what does a pujari do? Pujari is offering Krishna nice food. Pujari is bathing Krishna. The pujari is putting on nice clothing on Krishna. The pujari is also offering incense to the Lord. So all that is for the pleasure of the body of the Lord.
Got it. Maharaj. Thank you.
One second. I'm looking for something else. Uh, One second. Uh, yeah, so in chapter 2, text 41, in the purport it says, the highest perfection of Krishna consciousness is renunciation of the material conception of life. This state is automatically achieved by the progressive Krishna consciousness. The resolute purpose of a person in Krishna consciousness is based on knowledge. Vasudeva Sarvam iti Samahatma Sudurlabha. A person in Krishna consciousness is the rare good soul who knows perfectly that Vasudeva or Krishna is the root of all manifested causes. As by watering the root of a tree, one automatically distributes water to the leaves and branches. So, by acting in Krishna consciousness, one can render the highest service to everyone, namely oneself, family, society, country, humanity, etc. If Krishna is satisfied by one's actions, then everyone will be satisfied. Service in Krishna consciousness is, however, best practiced under the able guidance of a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Krishna, who knows the nature of the student and who can guide him to act in Krishna consciousness. As such, to be well versed in Krishna consciousness, one has to act firmly and obey the representative of Krishna. And one should accept the instruction of the bona fide spiritual master as one's mission in life. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur instructs us in his famous prayers for the spiritual master as follows. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado yasya prasadan nagatir kutopi dayam sutvam tasya yasas trisanyam vande gurur shri charanarvindam. By satisfaction of the spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes satisfied. And by not satisfying the spiritual master, there's no chance of being promoted to the plane of Krishna consciousness. I should therefore meditate and pray for his mercy 3 times a day and offer my respectful obeisance unto him, my spiritual master. The whole process, however, depends on perfect knowledge of the soul beyond the conception of the body, not theoretically, but practically, when there is no longer a chance for sense gratification manifested in fruitive activities. One who is not firmly fixed in mind is diverted by various types of fruitive acts. Yes. And that is, I'm reading from chapter 2 and verse number 41. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekaha kuranandana bahusaka yenantrasya buddhayo vyavasayanam. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. So, if we have strong faith that by Krishna consciousness we will be elevated to the highest perfection of life, that is called Vyavasayatmika intelligence. And it's said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 22.62, Shraddha Sabde Vishwasakahi Surdhida Nishchaya Krishna Bhakti Kaila Sarva Karma Kritahaya. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. When one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he need not act in relationship to the material world with obligations to family traditions, humanity, or nationality. So that doesn't mean you ignore your family, but you're not obligated to follow family traditions. It's like my family tradition was every Sunday we would have lunch with chicken. So that was just the thing that there was a family, what you would call a family tradition, yeah. It was our family tradition. We all sit down together and eat chicken. That type of family tradition you should not follow. But if you all go to church, the whole family goes to church in the morning, and when they come home, they have vegetarian, lunch, that's okay. That's perfect. Right? But they should also offer the food first to Krishna. So you have to have strong faith that by Krishna consciousness, one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life. And that's called Vyavasayatmika intelligence. And Lord Chaitanya has said, Shraddha Sabde Vishwasakahi Surhida Nishchaya Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Pitahaya. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. When one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he need not act in relationship to the material world with obligations to family traditions, humanity, or nationality. Fruitive activities are the engagements of one's reactions from past good or bad deeds. When one is awake in Krishna consciousness, he need no longer endeavor for good results in his activities. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, all activities are on the absolute plane, for they are no longer subject to dualities like good and bad. The highest perfection of Krishna consciousness is renunciation of the material conception of life. This state is automatically achieved by progressive Krishna consciousness. I'll stop right there. Tomorrow I'm going to explain what is the material conception of life. You have to understand what that is. So I was just reading from chapter 2, verse 41. It's a wonderful purport. Okay, well, we'll stop right there. Yeah, you have a question. Okay, go ahead.
Not a question, Maharaj, but you were asking about where is the reference for when we do sense gratification, it's followed by mystery.
Yeah. Oh, please tell me what that is.
So I have asked this question to Elephant in the Room.
Yes.
So it says in the verse number, chapter 5, verse 22.
All right. I'm going right there.
5.22. Purport, last line.
Yeah, there it is.
Last line
The
of
more
the
one is addicted to material pleasures, the more he is entrapped by material miseries.
miseries.
Yes. Yeah. I forgot where it was. Thank you very much. Yeah, chapter 5,
Verse 22.
Verse 22. Therefore, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by sense pleasure, and not attracted by sense pleasures, which are all the causes of continuous material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more he is entrapped by material miseries. There you are, my dear friends. You want to ruin your life? Disengage in sense gratification. And but if you give up sense gratification, then you'll be protected by Krishna. And you'll have real happiness. Thank you for finding that.
I have asked the chat GPT one. So.
Harivilas. All right, well, I think we'll stop there. There's so much wisdom today. It's like makes you overwhelmed. Haribo. Thank you very much, my dear devotees. Please chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And don't listen to what the Mayavadis say, and don't listen to what the atheists say. Just listen to what Krishna says.
Very good.
Haribo.